So I recently saw two movies just about back to back that, while on the surface, have nothing at all in common with each other. But they really do have a lot of similarities now that I think about them. And they both inspired a lot of thought and are actually giving me a lot of creative energy. So I wanted to talk about them. And those movies are Saltburn and The Book of Clarence. This isn't a review. I just wanted to talk about some of the elements and the similarities that I found in both films, why they are creatively inspiring me right now, and what fiction writers can take away and learn from the elements of these two films. We're going to start out spoiler free, and I will definitely let you know before I spoil either of these movies. I do recommend you watch both of them. They're both polarizing in different ways. And yeah, so let's get into it. Let's start with Saltburn. That came out earlier this year. It's currently on Amazon Prime Video, and it is about a young man who's a college student, a misfit who doesn't really fit in, but manages to befriend this popular, attractive, rich boy and get invited to his estate over the summer break. And the estate is called Saltburn. It's in England, where houses have names, which is one of those things that I always think is really cool. And it actually takes place in 2006 or 2007. And it becomes this psychological thriller with lots of twists and turns and some unexpected visual elements. And it's directed by actress and writer-director Emerald Fennell. The Book of Clarence, directed by musician, writer, and director James Samuel, takes the biblical time, so we're in the age of Jesus in Jerusalem, and tells the story of Clarence, who's actually the Apostle Doubting Thomas's twin brother. It takes place in the days leading up to the Last Supper and the crucifixion. And it tells the story of one of the many pretenders. So the Bible says that there were a lot of other people claiming to be the Messiah at that time. And Clarence is one of them. So that out of the way, just the basic premises, you can see that, yeah, if you are thinking about it at first, nothing is in common with either of these two stories. The similarities started coming to my mind as I was just diving deep into both of them. Because after I finished both of them, I was like, who can I talk about these movies with? I need to know more. I need to see reviews. I need to see interviews. I did a mini deep dive over the past day or so into the backgrounds of these movies. And as I was thinking about it and reading and listening, more and more things came to mind. So, similarities. Using the unexpected in your film. The Book of Clarence, if you are familiar with James Samuel, this is his second feature film, and he likes visual flourishes. They're both visually gorgeous films. The Book of Clarence opens with this chariot race that is visceral. I've never seen camera work quite like that. And it's just in your face. It's part music video, but deeper. And there's lots of music and dance. There's some anachronisms for the time. The casting is very unexpected from certain people. The Book of Clarence takes place, like I said, in Jerusalem. But the words like Israel and Jew and Jewish people are never mentioned, and everybody's Black. All of the residents of Jerusalem are Black. The Romans are played by white actors. And as we go into more about the kind of social commentary, that's a big part of it. In Saltburn, unexpected elements. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And apparently it's all over TikTok, even though I'm not on TikTok. But there's shocking scenes. There's things I've never seen on film before, never wanted to see on film. There's a lot of twisted things that happen. And the director is really using, shock value. I don't want to quite call it shock value, although maybe that's what it is. And I will get more into that also. Both films have elements of social commentary, although that's not really the point of them. And in reviews that I've seen, at least for Saltburn, there's been some criticisms about it's not more social commentary. Like the reviewer wants the film to be different than what it is. So there's a layer of social commentary. With Saltburn, it's rich versus less rich versus poor. It definitely makes fun of the rich, but that's not the point. Speaking of making fun of, they're both very much comedies and dramas and tragedies to a certain degree. They mix comedic elements. I laughed out loud in both of them, and I cringed and was shocked, and in one case kind of disgusted, and in the other case saddened. So they're doing interesting things, mixing comedy and drama, a little bit of horror in terms of Saltburn. in a way that I think is difficult to pull off successfully. Now, opinions differ as to whether these films pulled it off successfully or not, but separate issue. They're both period pieces. So we've got 2,000 years ago and 2007, 17 years ago. Both of the directors have backgrounds in other kinds of art. So Emerald Fennell is an actress. She's an accomplished actress. James Samuel is an accomplished musician, musical artist, producer. So they're coming at writing and directing from other artistic pursuits, which I think you really see in both of these, in all of their work, but especially in these works. Both films are led by a misunderstood male main character who is driven by love or maybe obsession. Both have writer-directors, and this is their second feature film. Both films are polarizing for various reasons. The Book of Clarence has been called blasphemy by certain factors. I think by people who've not seen the movie. If you've actually seen the film, I would be very interested to see anyone who's actually watched The Book of Clarence detail why it's blasphemy. Like, I want to see that essay. Maybe I don't, but I don't think it's there. I don't think there's a there. I think you're making assumptions. And sidebar of so much of criticism these days is based on people who have not consumed the work. I don't want to hear critiques if you haven't consumed the work. Watch it, read it, and then tell me what you think about it. I'll get off my soapbox. Both are visually stunning, and they show a lot of care and love in like every frame of the film. I watched a video of Emerald Fennell talking about kind of breaking down a scene, and she's showing elements in the background, things you never notice. What is he wearing on his wrist? What is, in the corner? What is on the table? Things like that, which in filmmaking is important. The set decorators, set dressers, that's a huge part of the atmosphere of the film, and it's telling a story as well. And with the Book of Clarence, he shot in Italy, I forgot the name of the place, but one of the oldest continually populated cities in the world, and it looks ancient. It looks of the time. When you're inside the buildings, the homes, the details are there, the costumes, the hair, everything is visually stunning. And then, of course, the cinematography is just amazing in both of these films. They're both almost fantasies in a way, and maybe we'll talk more about that in spoilers, but in Saltburn, you've got this main character being thrust into this world of the ultra wealthy, this enormous estate where he just literally walks in and just can't close his mouth because he's looking all around. The butler's like, this dude obviously does not belong here. So there's kind of this fantastical aspect of being a fish out of water dropped into this world that you don't understand the rules of, you're not prepared, and you want it. He obviously wants this lifestyle. Book of Clarence is kind of a fantasy because it's taking a story that is so well known by so many. Is the story of Jesus. This is a parallel story to that one. But because of the style and the story and the way it's told and the way people talk, there's elements of it kind of being a fantastical version of that. Both of these stories pay homage to another story or another set of stories or genre. So Saltburn is paying homage to Gothic fiction. You're getting a very Rebecca feel, a Daphne du Maurier and the Alfred Hitchcock movie, Rebecca feel. I've never seen Brideshead Revisited, but I heard that was one of the other inspirations, and that the director just loves Gothic fiction, Gothic horror, Gothic romance. That is definitely the vibe you're in. Gigantic ancient house that's dark and often lit by candles for some reason, and just that visual aspect is there. With the Book of Clarence, it's paying homage to the story of Jesus, but also to the big epics, Ten Commandments, Ben-Hur, the movies that I know I watched. Some of these movies come on every year at Christmas and Easter especially. And so you've got these huge old school Hollywood movies with casts of thousands, and they were shooting in the desert, and it was just big. And James Samuel was like, let's do that with Black people. I haven't seen that. No one's ever seen that. And that seems to be his impetus for making this movie. With both of these movies, you don't really know how they're going to end. They build the tension in a way where you're watching and you're getting to the end of the movie and you're like, how is this going to be wrapped up? I have absolutely no idea. both of them, the last scene, the last shot is still a surprise. You're still like, is this the end? Is something else going to happen? And you get this ending shot, this ending frame even, that is surprising yet inevitable, which is a thing that we learn when writing. Your ending should be surprising yet inevitable. And your mileage may vary as to whether it works for you, but it definitely, both endings left me, the audience member, thinking about them afterwards. They live on in my mind even now, and I think they will for a long time, which is the mark of something that's inspiring and something that I think is good art, whether or not you enjoyed it on every level or not. I think that it's definitely, at least for me, both of them were very good art. So what can we take away from these movies and from these choices that these artists made as writers, bring into our own work, think about more? The main things that I am taking away are to be specific. So both of these directors were incredibly specific with their choices, and out of the specificity comes the universality. We can relate to these things because they took one, in both cases, one man in these situations with incredible desires and took them on a journey. Being specific allows room for the audience to interpret for themselves and to have those moments where they're still thinking about it afterwards. They want to learn more. They want to talk about it. It sparks conversation, maybe some debate, like the polarization. Both are so polarizing and controversial because it gives you room to say, is that what you thought? What did you think about that? Did that work for you? Like, why did he do that? Why was he doing this? I didn't get the feeling with either of these that the director wanted you to think or feel a certain way about something. They were presenting their vision, and their visions were fully formed, like I said, very specific, very detailed, very driven, and very passionate, and that was evident. And then they're giving it to you, and they're saying, here, what do you think about this? Another thing to take away is don't shy away from the controversial if you have the stomach for it. From interviews with both of these directors, they both seem incredibly confident and self-assured, at least they present that way. And they obviously have the stomach for the controversy, else they would not have done what they did. So if you have the stomach for it, not shying away from controversial topics and imagery is difficult, especially depending on how you're putting your art out there. There are gatekeepers if you are traditionally published. If you are independently published, there's more leeway, but the gatekeeper is the audience, right? I just see in the publishing world specifically, there is such a push to sanitize everything, and it's impossible to make good art when you're sanitizing it. So on the one hand, you have an entire camp of writing professionals giving advice saying, audience first, think about the audience. And that is so important. We're writing for people, we're writing to be read. But I get the feeling that so many writers feel like they are at the mercy of their audience and they have to give the audience exactly what they want so that they'll keep coming back and writing more books. And while that might be a route to financial success, I think it's a route also to artistic death. I think burnout is a consequence of that. And, thinking about why did you want to become a writer in the first place? I think it's because most of us have something to say. These two films definitely have something to say. And if we serve the audience to the detriment of our passion and our vision and our message, then we won't be able to do it for very long. So there is a balance that has to be struck between serving your audience, giving them what they want, giving them the things that keep them coming back, and serving your audience in a way that says, this is going to be something for you to chew on, and you might not like every part of it, but I'm going to respect you. I'm going to take a big swing and give you something really meaty and let the chips fall where they may. This is my vision. This is what I wanted to put out there. What do you think? So there's a lot of artistic courage there. And I also find that inspiring, even if we can't follow it exactly. The other thing to learn or to take away from these films, I think, is both of them show evidence that their creator loved what they were doing with all of their heart. They put their soul into these movies. There are movies that you watch and you're like, okay, that person just got a paycheck. And then there are movies that you watch and you're like, This was 10 years of work. This was blood, sweat, and tears. This was everything this person had in them at the moment, and I get it. Now let's go into spoilers. So if you do not want to be spoiled for Saltburn or the Book of Clarence, turn off the video, come back once you've seen both of these movies. I encourage you to watch both of them because I would love to know what you think. Let me know in the comments if you agree, disagree with me, what your feelings are on these movies. I'm dying to talk to other people about this. So let's talk about character arcs. Book of Clarence is much more clear. Clarence's arc is a redemption arc. He starts out as a non-believer, basically an atheist. He comes to faith, not just faith, he comes to knowledge. In the movie he says, knowledge is stronger than belief. There's that point where someone says, oh, now you believe? And I was saying it along with him, and he's like, no, I know. When it's proven to him that God is real. He's walked across the water, he's gotten this faith, and that is his redemption arc from being this everyman, drug dealer, kind of, I don't know if he's a slacker, but he's not living up to his potential. He wants more. He wants to be someone. He wants to matter. He wants to make a difference, to be respected by the woman he loves and his mother. And he gets that in the end, even though it comes through terrible cost. So redemption arc, easy to understand. The arc of Oliver in Saltburn was a little bit more difficult for me to pinpoint. My first thought was, this is a tragedy? It's a tragic arc because it's sort of the birth of a villain, right? But then at the end, he's won. And that final sequence when he's dancing naked through the house after he has killed everyone and gotten what he wanted, somehow gotten the house, gotten Saltburn. This is the happiest we've ever seen this man. We've never really seen a real smile from him until he has won at the end. He is literally living his best life, gotten everything he ever wanted, and there's no bittersweet touch. With a lot of these movies, the villain hero might win, but there's a bitterness to it, a bittersweet quality to it. That's not here. He is joyful. The audience might feel some bittersweet, qualities or sensations about the whole thing, but he is happier than he's ever been in his whole life. So is that a tragic arc? What is the arc? So we talk about breaking a character down to its component parts. Goal, motivation, conflict. He has this goal. Originally, it's being friends with Felix, who is this, shining alpha hero. Not really alpha, actually, but he is the popular, rich, attractive boy of his dreams, I guess. So his goal is to become his friend. He gets that, gets to his house, and then the goal, I think, becomes, I want to live like this. I want this house. I want this life. At one point, after Felix has died and the sister Venetia has died, I was like, are they going to adopt him? Is that where this movie is going? Does he just step into the lives of these kids? But it's not quite that much of a fantasy. It pushes against this kind of fantastical element. I didn't expect him to kill the mother. And does he have something to do with the father's death? That's not shown. The ending, the time jump is very murky as to what was he even doing. Did he accept the payout to leave? From the time that he walks out of Saltburn after the father has offered him money to leave when both of his children are dead. Then we have this time jump. A man is wearing a mask in the background, so I'm assuming it's going from 2007 to 2020 or 21. And then he accidentally bumps into Rosamund Pike again and then initiates a whole other plot. Over the course of this, so his goal has been to befriend Felix, then maybe the goal is, I want this life. How do I get this life? Let me learn how to move among them. I'm pretty bad at that still. I'm still awkward. Let me manipulate everyone around me. I get called out, specifically by Farley and then the sister. Okay. And then he's completely found out by Felix. All of his lies come crumbling down. I can't be one of them. I need to start killing people. I'm simplifying it. It's much more complex. The movie's not really interested in interrogating Oliver's inner life. We don't know exactly why he does what he does, but it's clear that he wants. The desire is clear. It's made very visceral and visual. The craving, the obsession, the desire. Motivation, maybe not so much. I mean, we think we know motivation, but then we find out we were wrong about all of that. Because he was not this poor kid with these drug-addicted parents. He's an upper middle class kid with loving parents. Is he just a sociopath? I don't think it's that simple either. But he's smart enough to figure out how to get what he wants, no matter why he wants it. And then he puts this crazy murderous plan into action and he wins. And he's loving his life. There's no hint that it's not all that it's cracked up to be. Although I think, the audience bringing reality, our life, our knowledge of other stories to it, expect that. And if we were going to write fan fiction of this, is there Saltburn fan fiction? I don't even want to look. Maybe we have some sort of comeuppance, or at least the knowledge that being rich makes many people miserable. It's not dancing naked through your mansion every day. For both of these movies, there is social commentary, but it's not the point. So in the book of Clarence, you've got all of these Black characters, not just Black, they're all dark-skinned or dark brown. In a world where you might have a lot of Black characters, but generally the love interest is very often a biracial woman. The love interest here is Anna Diop. And for all of the odes to Lupita Nyong'o's beauty, I need Anna Diop to get just as many odes because she is amazingly gorgeous. I'm working on a book now. Oh, actually, the book that comes out in June, which has a lot of African gods and goddesses in it. I hadn't cast any of the characters. Sometimes when I write, I will create a dream cast. Haven't done that yet, but now I'm going to start, and she is number one on my list. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, these beautiful Black people all over the screen. Some of them are African American. You've got Africans, Afro-Europeans, and they're speaking with different accents. It is a glorious example of Black excellence. So you've got the residents of Jerusalem, the rabble, the proletariat, are all beautiful Black people, and then the Romans are all played by white, British, I think English, and then James McAvoy is Scottish, but it was a British accent. So these white Romans, and then you've got the obvious parallels of many different types of colonialism. So anytime the Romans come around, they're asking to see your papers, and they hand over little scrolls of their identification, which is one of the sort of anachronistic things that is also part of the social commentary. We have Omar Sy, who plays this character who was an enslaved gladiator who Clarence gets his freedom. And he's just a revolutionary. He's anti-Roman. He wants to overthrow Rome. He also believes that he's immortal. And so you've got these revolutionaries. You've got the people who are like, oh, no, we can't do that. It's just follow the rules. Keep your head down. All of that is in there. When they take Clarence, when the Romans make him drag his cross, he's about to be crucified. His mother, played by Marianne Jean-Baptiste, who is always amazing, is screaming, they always take our babies. They always take our babies. And it's like, you see exactly what James Samuel is doing. This parallel to the police violence, to the apartheid states, to colonialism, to oppression and racial violence and the police state and all of these things. And they're there, but that's not what the movie is about. And I like that. I like it in the same time as it also makes the movie too much. There's too many things happening in this movie. There's many balls in the air, and they don't always stay in the air perfectly, and they don't always come together perfectly. But that being said, it was a big swing. It was a huge, ambitious attempt, and the fact that it works as well as it does is an amazing achievement. And the fact that he tried it and he went for it is also really inspiring to me too. Social commentary in Saltburn, we have the class differences, the kind of ridiculousness of specifically British. These people are titled, and so they're Lord and Lady. I don't know if they're like what title they have, but they're a Lord and Lady, the parents of Felix. So you've got that aristocracy, and then combined with the British stiff upper lip thing that they've got going on. That as an American, I'm sure I've missed a lot of stuff in this movie, but when their child dies, the mother is looking at the body and just like, well, lunch is ready. And there's a amazing, one of the best scenes in the movie happens right after that, where they're traumatized by the death of their son and brother and best friend, although I don't know if Oliver's traumatized. But they're having this lunch and they're pushing forward and they are not allowing their emotions to shine. And there's a line where the father says to Archie Madikwe, who plays the cousin, but he's American, we have no room for your American emotions, or something like that, because Archie Madikwe is breaking down. So the social commentary in terms of that aspect of rich people, the aristocracy, their coldness, their the way that they've divorced themselves from their emotions, the problems that their kids have, as exemplified in Venetia, it's all there. And it's part of the fabric, that's part of the tapestry. But these movies are focused. They're very finely focused on this main character, what they want, what they're willing to do to get what they want. And that's what stories are about. That's how we write. That's how we pull people through. So if you're looking for more social commentary and it to be more focused on that, you're going to be disappointed. But that's not what the filmmaker was trying to do. And then I talked a little bit about the ending of both before, but in the book of Clarence, Clarence is crucified. He is in the tomb. Jesus literally comes through. I was waiting for him to roll away the stone, but he cracks open the stone. And then I was wondering, is this Jesus or is this the angel who does it for Jesus? But in this movie, Jesus comes and brings Clarence back from the dead. And the final shot is Clarence awake with a light bulb over his head, which is a device that has been used throughout the movie to indicate an idea, and then it goes to black. We don't know what the idea was. And it's kind of perfect. So I was sitting waiting at the edge of my seat like, okay, I guess he's going to be resurrected. That's the next logical thing to happen. But this isn't Jesus, this is Clarence. And where are we going from here? And like, what does this filmmaker have to say? What is this movie trying to say to me? A lot of times, in those final shots, it's going to wrap it up in some way. And with these movies, you don't know until the end because of what all the other things that have preceded it, I think. Like I was waiting for that moment when I understood why did this filmmaker want to spend years of their life on this? What were they hoping for? And I don't know that I understand it for the Book of Clarence. Having listened to interviews with James Samuel, it seems like he wanted to show us Black people in biblical times, and that was his main goal. So the story was perhaps even secondary to the desire of his to just have us be there, have something that celebrates Blackness, that reaches through time from, connecting events that are happening now to then, and just a loving exploration and portrayal of Black folks. Saltburn, the ending, I saw articles and videos about, did the ending ruin the movie? Did the fact that he was this apparent murdering genius, insinuates himself into Rosamund Pike's life, gets her to sign the house over to him, and then eventually kills her and gets what he wants, did that ruin the movie? For me, it did not. I do have compassion for those who believe it did. Like with Book of Clarence, I don't know what Emerald Fennell was trying to say. Whatever she was trying to say might have been lost on me, as much as I really do love this movie and think it was a certain kind of genius. I can't say that I walked away with a message that she wanted. And I don't know that she had a message that she wanted. From what I've heard in interviews with her, she wanted to tell this Gothic story about desire, obsession, and love. And she did that. So in one of the reviews I read about, I think it was about Saltburn, but it was comparing it to other sort of vibey movies of this era. Like these movies are mostly vibes. It says that New York Times' Beatrice Loyaza wrote, "These movies argue against the tyranny of story in how we evaluate screen-based media." The tyranny of story. I don't believe story is tyranny in general, but I love that quote because these movies both take story in a different direction. I think they are formulated and structured well. It's not like they're completely avant-garde, experimental films. They have beginning, middle, and end. They have goals and conflicts and resolutions. There's 3 acts, basically. You could look at the act structure. There's character arcs, even if they might be a little bit like, what is that arc? So yeah, it's not experimental. I think I can say that the story did not seem to be the main focus of either of them, if that makes sense, to the point where that quote about the tyranny of story fits. Final thoughts. One other thought about Saltburn. Before I saw it, I spoke about it briefly with author Theodora Taylor, who we were interviewing on the Ink and Magic podcast. And she is also just a story connoisseur. She wrote seven-figure fiction and is the force behind the universal fantasies idea, which is incredibly helpful if you're writing commercial fiction. And she was saying that she thought Saltburn, that the director was very calculating in making viral moments. Like, she knew what she was doing and she was engineering this to be talked about and to be controversial and to be viral on TikTok. I can see that. On the one hand, it does feel like a movie that has a lot of heart behind it. On the other hand, it does seem like a movie that has a lot of calculation behind it, that we're in these times when you need people talking about your art. So let's put in the craziest stuff that we've ever thought about filming, and let's get the best actors we can to do it. Barry Keoghan, I don't know how to say his name. He's a revelation. We'll talk about Lakeith Stanfield too, but specifically Saltburn. Is that what was done here? Was it calculated to be polarizing and controversial? Does that take away from it if it was? Like, these are questions that I have that I do not know the answer to. I don't know inside of Emerald Fennell's mind, but there's a case to be made for that. And does that take away from it? I don't know. I still walked away feeling a lot of emotions and having a lot of thoughts about this. So if you engineer your art to be controversial, where does that leave it? That's an open question for me as a writer. As a person who does not engineer things to be controversial, I tell stories that I want to tell. That's always how I thought it should be. But I'm not judging, because you need people to see your work. You need people to talk about it. I watched this movie because I heard people talking about it. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have bothered. But now I do want to go back and watch her first movie, which I never watched, and just to see what it's all about. Performance-wise, Lakeith Stanfield is also a revelation. He's playing twins. As wonderful as he is in Atlanta, his career is really great because he gets to work with these fantastic, iconoclast creators who give him really fantastic roles. Atlanta, Get Out, this. He gets to do such great work and he's so good at it. I really enjoyed all the performances. I hadn't even talked about James Samuel, not only writing and directing the Book of Clarence, but composing, producing and writing all of the songs on the soundtrack. I think he performed in all of the songs on the soundtrack as well. Complete auteur. So when we talk about filling the well as an artist, I think it's really important. I think it's important to consume really good art while you're creating, because it is the fuel for your fire. And I'm starting to plot a brand new book. It's another big swing for me. I believe in big swings, my own version of it. I don't know that I will swing ever quite so big as these two, but in my world, I like to take on projects that scare me, that I'm not quite sure I can pull off, and then challenging myself to pull them off. So consuming other art that does that, and that does it in really interesting ways, that sparks thought, is really important to the process. So I would, again, love to know what you think in the comments. Please let me know if you've seen these movies and if you were inspired by them, love them, hate them. I'm so curious. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll check you out next time. Happy writing.